Just explain to me in layman's terms, this is an attempt to say parents who don't turn up for parents' evenings, take their kids out of school. It's not right for anybody to shout abuse at anybody else, be it at the school gates or inside the school or in the street, is it?
Yeah, that's correct. And we don't say that that's a good thing, but what we do know are these types of parents are often the ones who actually need supports. When we look at young people, there's obviously there's intervention that's needed early, and schools put that in place. And sometimes these are the same parents who need that early intervention, and I think fining them is definitely not going to be the way forward.
It's a hard job being a teacher, though, nowadays, isn't it? You've got strict controls, you can't really raise your voice, you can't do anything. Do you think a lot of parents, taking this argument, I don't necessarily agree with that gentleman, but do you think a lot of parents pass the buck? Do you think they expect too much at the teaching profession? Do you think that actually more parents could look in the mirror and try and do a better job themselves at home?
I think the question should be, are the government passing the buck? Because we're actually asking...
No, I'm asking you about...
But before we get to at home, we need to see, actually, we're asking teachers to be the parents, we're asking them to do all the work that...
But would that be necessary if... I want to ask you from that angle. I know it's always about the government. I'm saying, could more parents take more responsibility, do you think?
There's always more responsibility that everyone can do. But as parents, we have to think that, first and foremost, they're trying to do the best that they can for their young people, and they need the resources to do that.
Yeah, but what the point that Sir Michael Wilshaw is making, and lots of teachers will say, is that, look, so many teachers, and I've got friends who've done this, who want to be teachers, and then after a few years, it just grates. They just can't bear to keep going in, dealing with those same parents. You're with those parents for 7 years in the school. You get the same shouting and they just leave. So teachers are leaving the profession.
I think we have to help set a precedent, and I don't think fining will actually prevent it, but I think it will help those kind of parents think before they speak. There has to be a level of respect. I believe so. There has to be a level of respect that's shown, and parents have to understand that they're the first person in line to teach their children how to treat others.
Why are you shaking your head to that?
Because a fine is not going to be the deterrent. That's definitely not going to work.
What's the answer?
There is no one answer, and I think for every case needs to be looked at individually. But what we need to see is actually there's loads of things within schools that need to be sorted out.
Do you feel respected as a teacher by the parents? That's what I want to ask you.
Most of the time, yes.
And when you're not, when you've done, genuinely here, a 12, 14-hour day, you've dealt with these children and you've done your absolute best in trying conditions, and parents are in your face or they're saying or whatever, how do you deal with that? You're a very reasonable human being, but does that not grate?
It comes down to communication, and I'm very of the mindset that we have to find solutions. It's not about a blame culture. We need to find what's the problem and how do we find a solution. And it's not just going to work straight away, and it's not going to work the same for different parents. So we need to find what is best for that individual at that time.
And finding someone £100 if somebody's hard up, isn't that already just going to damage the child? I mean, that affects the child. Do you know what I mean? So you're taking money away from a family.
It absolutely does, but it also will encourage you to think before you speak. These teachers, anyone in front-facing roles, they're giving us their time, their service, their care. And I think if you do have a discrepancy or an issue you want to raise with a teacher, there's a way you should do so.
But threatening behaviour is... You can still tell the police about it. If somebody's threatening you, it doesn't matter where you are.
Why are they doing it? Why are they doing it? Are they feeling that the teachers aren't accessible? Do they feel they're not being heard? Why do parents believe it's OK to do that, do you think?
I'm not a parent, so I can't answer that. But what I do know is there's that emotional connection. There's obviously an issue that the parent wants to be dealt with, and it's not being dealt with properly. So that communication is obviously a breakdown, and it's obviously built up, and we've got to the point where actually nobody's winning. The child's not winning.
Have you ever been abused by a parent?
I wouldn't see it as abuse. I'd say there's confrontations in regards to they don't see it from my point of view.
So have you been sworn at?
Have I been sworn at by a parent? Not that I can remember, no.
So you probably... Can you empathise with those teachers, actually, in schools who say they do get that, and they get that on a regular basis, which are the kind of teachers that Sir Michael Wilshaw is trying to stick up for here?
No, I've had aggressive behaviour, but I haven't been sworn at. But it's about how do we resolve the situation. We often tell young people we need to be resilient, we need to problem solve. As teachers, we need to do that as well. we are not subject to being wrong at times, and obviously we need to hear the side from the parents, and we need to come to a resolution.
The thing is, if you can't get parents in for a meeting, if they're not coming to the parents' evenings, how do you actually start that conversation then? Because isn't that the issue? So you say, here's a meeting. If you don't turn up, we're going to fine you £100.
But you're saying, here's a meeting at the time and the place that you're dictating. If you can't get through by the phone, if you can't get through via letter, what are you going to do?
Yeah, but
would you not visit? But you're saying this is an issue. You're saying this is an issue. So how do you find a solution? You're saying you're just giving me actually a barrier. Find a solution.
What Ranbir said to you...
You don't know what the situation is.
What Ranbir said to you was there will be situations where... It's very general what you're saying, and it's great, but there will be situations, I'm sure you know this, where parents do not make an effort. They are not entering into a two-way communication because the world isn't ideal, whatever anybody says. So the question to you is, in that instance, those parents, how do you get them in line? Personally, I would have thought that if you've got kids, you should be switched on enough to do work with the school to do the right thing. But in that instance, when they're not, you can't just sit there and go, we need to communicate. If they're not prepared to communicate, how do we make that happen? That's what I'm saying.
You've got to support you. There has to be a support system. They're often the parents who need support. Instead of parents being critical to schools, we actually need them to be critical thinkers and actually be part of the school. So can they be governors? Can they be part of the school environment?
I agree with that, but I also think, like Jeremy said at the top, there needs to be more understanding that parenting doesn't just disappear between 9 and 3. You have to be there before school and after school and help set some rules and regulations, and you have to stay in constant correspondence with your child's teacher.
But that's how you work together, right?
So the parents' duty.
Brilliant. But and to add to that, education isn't just academic, so it goes outside of the school building. So what are we doing within the communities? What are we doing within the houses to make sure that...
Why do you never say that... Just one question. The debate is brilliant. Why is it that when you talk about a rounded education, you talk about the government and the community, you talk about absolutely everybody bar the family and the parents?
No, I didn't. I said the community.
I think they have
everyone has a role to play.
But I genuinely believe that a lot of parents, that the point that Wilshaw's making, I don't necessarily agree with Fines, is he says that he's saying parents should take a little bit more responsibility and be the role model.
Well, it's
if
like
you're
that.
At the gate
it's like
swearing...
Hugh and his mum, who we had, if you missed it, who is on this Channel 4 show, sent off to a prison boot camp because he was going off the rails. That tough love from a parent.
And I was raised by my grandfather, and he dropped me to school every day.
Say that again.
I was raised by my grandfather. He dropped me to school every day, and he had a great dialogue with my teacher, and that made for a better me. I was more well-rounded. I was more intrigued, and if there were any issues, that teacher felt like they could go straight to him.
But that was there's great dialogue. And if we look, even for example, like Ofsted, how many people actually respond to parent surveys when they send them in? I think more people understand Brexit, which isn't a lot, than people that actually communicate.
So actually what we're saying is everybody has to work together, really.
Everybody has to work.
To make it easier for kids, completely.
And fining is definitely not the way forward.
For you. I'm glad that I'm not sending my child to James Madison High School in the USA, though, because there, last
you wouldn't
week,
be able to go to take your child.
I couldn't take Sean in because it says here they will reject any parent or guest entering the premises wearing pyjamas.
Do you wear pyjamas?
Not to school.
Why did I say
hair rollers, leggings.
Saw you in hair rollers at 4 a.m.
You did. And a headscarf, among other clothing items. So they've got, like, this complete zero tolerance policy against... If you basically
Can I just say that Ranbir Singh in a pair of head rollers at 4:15 a.m. is actually an attractive sight. Thank you very much indeed.
I was wearing more than just the rollers, though.
Good.